right, before we get started, quick mic check again now that we're live on both platforms. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you just fine. But if you're asking the peoples,
Mic check, mic check. One, two, three. Mic check, mic check. One, two, three. I hear a little bit of an echo. Can you hear it on your end, Tori? I just hear it from me.
nope, I don't hear echo at all.
Hmm.
Okay, they said no echo. Thank you, Sean.
Okay. Perfect. Wonderful. All right. I'm going to grab some water and we can get started.
Sweet.
I hear your water over there too, huh?
Hey, all you had to do was say the word.
All right. Hello, hello, beautiful people. It is me, Tasha K. We gotta say, and I am so very excited to be here with you today to share with you our topic, which is health is wealth. And you hear people say that all the time, but I really wanted to address it as more than a buzz phrase because I get the sense that even though we say health is wealth, we don't really be acting like health is wealth. And as a financial coach, it is so important to me that we are able to achieve financial freedom, that we don't have to worry or stress out about money. For me, your ability to achieve financial freedom is so important. However, it doesn't trump the need for you to be healthy. I was thinking about Steve Jobs the other day, one of the richest people in the world. It didn't stop him from getting sick. It didn't stop him from dying of cancer. And when we look at the statistics for my people of color, Black people, women, we can see that the grind is killing us. As necessary as it is, as important as it is killing us. And so last week we talked about how to bring balance in 2023 so that you can balance all of these different things that are going on in your life. We looked at the 8 different dimensions of wellness and gave you an opportunity to rate yourself as you get grounded in the new year. And if you didn't watch the that, I highly recommend that you go back and replay it. And today we want to talk about, getting grounded in your health. So, with that being said, Tori, why did you think that this was an important conversation for today?
Yes, well, first and foremost, I am thankful to be on, and I'm thankful to be networking with you. I reminds me of some years back. You remember when you had one of your events all the way back at like Microsoft?
I remember, I do.
That was well over a decade. That was at least
Nah,
it
nah.
had to be. It had to be. It had it, close to that arena. So I'm just thankful that we able to maintain and have a relationship to where we always come back in each other's lives and is able to collaborate and give back to the people. So I want to say that first and foremost. And to your question, the reason why this is an important conversation is because at the end of the day, people are all chasing fulfillment within their lives. And they always thinking that the next thing that they get, the next thing, if I can just get this, then I feel more fulfilled. And oftentimes in the Western world, especially with Western values, and not just in the Western world, because Western values have been imposed on people all over the planet. And so oftentimes people go and get those things and manifest those things that they think that was going to bring happiness, but neglect their health in the process. And there's a saying that says, he who has his health has many goals and aspirations, but he who does not only has one, and that's to get healthy. So this is something that we should focus on very early on so that we never neglect our health in the pursuit of wealth and or relationships. And so they all are synergy, they're synergetic and they work together. And when we can understand that and just make it a lifestyle where all of these things come together, then they will never be at odds with each other, but they will work as complementary and complementary to each other.
I'm so glad you said that. I cannot wait to get into the complementariness of those things. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tasha. I am the CEO and Chief Coach at Goddess Day, where we believe that you are not helpless, you are not hopeless. In fact, you are powerful beyond measure. And we want to help you get the tools to tap into that power so that you can unleash it on the world. The phrase namaste really is like an acknowledgement to a deity. And that's where I got the phrase. That's how I created the phrase Goddess Day. Because I really want to acknowledge you as the deity who is in charge of taking control of your life in this plane. And so there's just so much that goes into that. Think that when we talk about financial freedom, it's just money. They think that dollars and cents and a bank account. But when you want to be wealthy, you have to do this holistically. You have to think of the mind, the body, and the spirit, because they're all working together to help action, to help inspire, to help motivate, to help stay healthy. All of those things are important on your journey quest for financial freedom. And as somebody who's been at this for a long time, I know personally, I have neglected well, but I like to say you come to the motive in. So, but now I'm not 18 anymore. I'm not 20 anymore. I'm in my 30s. And it's very clear to me how important it is to take a holistic picture forward. And before we get into today, I want to make sure that I give a proper welcome to my guest, who is the CEO and founder of LJ Fit Club. He is a holistic health practitioner specializing in helping health clients reverse their underlying condition using meditation, exercise, and plant-based nutrition. Now, I want you to pay attention to that word reverse those conditions, not just cover them up, not just deal with the surface issues, but really go into the root of the issue and see what does it take to actually reverse to wellness. He's a certified personal trainer and plant-based nutritionist and meditation enthusiast. He currently runs a holistic health and fitness studio that I've been to many times based out of Atlanta. He offers services such as personal training, virtual health coaching, vegan meal prep, and massage therapy. Tori, thank you so much for being with us today. Let us know if you are going by Tory today. If not, definitely correct me. But otherwise, I just want to welcome you and thank you for, that throwback memory.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Yes. When we got started, it made me think of it. And I was like, wow, we came a long way from that. And so no, thank you. Beautiful introduction. I don't need to add anything. Again, I'm just thankful to be here. And I would want to say this. You haven't just been to my studio many times, but was an active client. So she put in that work for real. So she ain't just talking out here. She ain't just coming from a point of and was nervous, getting started. So I want to just add that you ain't just come to my studio. You was an active client at the studio. So yes, ma'am.
Absolutely. I mean, and over the years, right? I probably first started going to your studio years ago, maybe like 5 or so years ago, and then revisited, my health and fitness journey last year. So
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very fitting that we're together having this conversation today. And before we get started, I want you to share with the people, how did you get into holistic wellness and holistic health, and what does that mean for you?
Yes. Well, sometimes I get a little jealous when people start telling me their story about how they were sick and tired, energetically deprived, and they saw something on YouTube and they was inspired to make a drastic change. That I get a little envious sometimes because that's not my story. I can't attribute, this path to me. This was something that was introduced to me from birth. So I'm a member of the African Hebrew Israelites of Jerusalem, which is a community, a spiritual community rooted in Israel. And so, from that community, holistic health is a part of our everyday life. And so, with that being said, my father introduced this way of life to us from a very early age. I mean, so just being a part of my lifestyle, I had two options. I either was going to simply rebel against that, or I was going to look more into it to give me justification of why I did certain things that the other kids were not doing. And so, thankfully, I was obedient. And so I just continue to elevate my consciousness as it relates to why. Why do we do this? Why are we eating plant-based? Why is it important to be cognizant of everything, the music that we listen to, right? The things, the thoughts that we're having, etc. And so I just continued to grow into a lifestyle that was introduced to me from birth, and that's how I got into this.
Awesome. I love it. So, what have you noticed for yourself, being somebody who is inside of a community that really values health and wellness inside of a larger community that doesn't always put it at the forefront? What have you noticed about that?
Yep. So I think the biggest takeaway is, and the takeaway that I am dedicated to sharing with my clients and potential clients and just our community at large, is that it's intentional of why we don't in this particular, like you said, a larger nation that's not health conscious. It's intentional that you're not health conscious. It's not that you just don't know and your people just didn't care to tell you. It's intentional that a lot of information is being withheld from you purposely.
Mhm.
A lot of misinformation is being promoted to you purposely. And so, which then lets me know that there's a war. And so, ever since I understood it in that way, which is the reality and in truth, then it's been my mission ever since to be a soldier on the other side of that war, because I was introduced and blessed with the information that many people are not privy to have.
So, tell me a little bit more about for those of people who are listening and they're like, okay, I go to the doctor, I see my therapist, but what is a holistic health practitioner? Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yes. So, in simplicity, the Western world has isolated everything. They've dissected and isolated everything. So, for an example, I'll just give you an example about how the body works, right? So, oftentimes, when one gland is not producing a hormone or instruction that is functional, right, or balanced. So, if your adrenal glands are not producing the right instructions, right, or hormones, then that throws off all the other glands. So your thyroid is now messed up as well, right? And so the other glands are affected by one being out of alignment. And so with the Western world, if I went and seen an adrenal specialist, he gonna tell me that my adrenals are messed up. If I went and seen a thyroid specialist, he gonna tell me that my thyroid is being dysfunctional. But the issue with it is that no, it's all dysfunctional because one is off. And so that's the Western world. So he gonna try to treat me for my thyroid, he gonna try to treat me for my adrenals, and I understand it. No, no, no. I gotta be treated for everything. Holistic is the understanding that nothing is separated. Separation is an illusion that we experience in this physical realm, but all things are
You
interconnected and
cutting out
all
a little
things are
bit. Hold on, hold on.
Mhm.
You cutting out a little bit. You said that something is an illusion.
Yep, I said separation is an illusion,
Okay.
that all things are connected and interdependent upon one another.
Hmm.
Can you hear me? You still hear me okay?
I can hear you okay now. If you go out a little bit, I'll do like this to let you know. Okay.
Okay, sweet. So, yes, all things are a divine whole. And when you understand wholeness, then you understand that everything has to function, right, at in its proper alignment for the system to work. So therefore, you can hear me okay?
Your audio is going out, and I don't want the people to miss what you're saying because it's so important. Do you have like a wired mic? I mean, a wired headphone that you could use? Do
What
you
I
have?
want to do is what we can do too is anybody who's live ask on their side if I'm going out too. If we can, if I'm am I going out? Can y'all hear me okay? Or do y'all am I going in and out?
Mic check, mic
You
check, you guys. If you could do us a quick favor and let us know if you hear us going out or if you hear Tori going out. I don't see nothing coming through yet, but I don't want to risk it. Um,
Yep.
and I can see that I don't know, might I'm not sure what it is, but what? How do you want to move forward?
Yeah. So
And
the important as
your audio has a delay.
yeah. So yours was kind of doing that just a little bit on my side too, but I could kind of filter through. It wasn't really bad. What I'm trying to figure out though is that because we got two devices, I wonder if it's going on both of those like that. That's the more so the important aspect. Um,
So when you're hearing me talk,
Instagram,
like right now, when you hearing me talk, you are hearing me go in and out.
just a tad bit, like even your screen to get like blurry too on my side.
That's not good.
But it might not be a big thing on theirs. So if you're live, if you could let us know, can y'all hear us okay?
Yeah. Um, let's keep going, and we'll fill in
Okay.
whatever gaps that we need to fill in. But I love what you're saying because I kept thinking of this, word wholeness today, and connected and its connectedness with salvation, with the word salvation, and I think I I feel like there's so much alignment there in looking at, a lot of people say they want salvation, but when we look at what it takes to actually acquire wholeness, there is a level of intentionality that's required there.
Hmm.
So I also like where you said that separation is an illusion. So when we're looking at the difference between the practices and more Western modern types of medicine, and then we look at more holistic or traditional types of medicine, um, a lot of the differences is that we're looking at things individually. You go to this type of doctor, you go to that type of doctor, and at the end of the day, none of them really know what's going on. And I know that people have had the experience of going to the doctor and they don't know what the issue is, but they don't care. They're just trying to treat the symptom. And that's
Hmm.
what is so incredible to me is that there isn't even a whole lot of interest in getting to the underlying issues as long as we can treat the symptom. And then we act surprised when other things start going wrong as well when we haven't dealt with anything. So when we think about the fact that separation is an illusion, and what is needed for our wellness is wholeness. When your mental health is off, your physical health is going to be off, right? If your physical health is off, your productivity is going to be off. If your productivity is off, your finances are likely going to spiral out of control. If your finances spiral out of control, you're going to be stressed out. If you're stressed out, your body is producing high levels of cortisol. And now you're wondering why you can't sleep at night. You wonder why your anxiety is off the roof. You're wondering why you're having panic attacks. You're wondering why your body is twitching. And it becomes this cycle of unwellness that we're dealing with. Anything else you want to end it with before we move on?
No, ma'am. I think we covered that. That we gave a whole scope of it.
So as I think that in today's day, we're becoming more and more used to non-traditional types of healing, and we're beginning to be more aware of alternative types of medicine. But at the same time, I think that allows for the wolves in the sheep's clothing to come through, presenting things as if it is holistic, as if it is natural, as if it is homeopathic. And I see, like, I'm like, what are you talking about over there? This it's like, how do you begin to separate what's actually natural and healthy versus what's a scam? And you need to, maybe go to the doctor or whatever the case may be. How do you separate the two?
What? Say your question again. You kind of broke up on me.
How do you separate
Separate.
the real from the fake, the real holistic
Ah,
homeopathic healing from the fake where people are just trying to sell you snake oil?
yes. Great question. So the best way to do this is not necessarily just because you're following someone who is advertising themselves to be holistic, not necessarily just taking what they're saying for face value. But the most important aspect to all of this is okay, cool, I understand that, but what system do you subscribe to? Right? Who is your teachers? Where did you learn this from? And that doesn't mean just because they don't have none of these things, don't mean they don't know what they're talking about. Okay. It's just that you're taking more of a risk because now they're subject to their own understanding. And we've been warned not to lean upon our own understanding. Right. So what is important to see if somebody has elders, see somebody has teachers, see somebody who has mentors, right? So remember, I said I came from a community of people who are along this line, whereas my father was my first mentor, my first teacher who had teachers. So now you're talking about intergenerational. And so a lot of individuals, right, are some of them are self-taught. And again, you can be self-taught and still know what you're talking about. It's just if you don't know, I wouldn't. If you don't know the references to see if somebody's, if you can't distinguish snake oil versus the real, and you are brand new, I recommend going to somebody a little bit more established who has a little bit more a system. Whether that is they've been learning traditional African medicine, they've learning through traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicines, or systems that have been around for thousands of years.
I love that. And let's see. So, what would you say are some of the biggest challenges that your clients face as they are out here trying to get well? We got fast food restaurants on every corner. We got Grubhub and we got Uber Eats, so it's easy to get what we want and not necessarily what we need. It takes time to be in the kitchen cooking meals. We got to make time out of our busy schedules after we've been working all day. When we going to the gym? When we cooking at home? When we doing all this stuff that's supposed to help us stay healthy? um how what are the challenges that your clients face, and how do you walk them through that?
Yep. So when we're asking on the application, we ask what are your three biggest challenges that you may be facing. And most of those, what we've come to find out is either A, lack of time, B, a lack of finances, or C, a lack of motivation. Time, finances, motivation. Now, it's really a trick question because the truth is you got 24 hours in a day just like everybody else. So you don't really lack time. B, finances is always a result of something that you may want. So you'll come up with the finances if you want it bad enough, is what I'm saying. So the real answer is really motivation. It's you're not motivated enough by the vision that you have and the standard that you have for yourself to create the time and to create the finances in order to get it done if it requires those things. So those are the top three challenges. Now let's go through them a little bit. If time is your issue, then I say, okay, cool. We're not going to talk about the time that you don't have. Let's talk about the time that you do have. Right? What time you get up in the morning? 5:30. All right. What time you off to work? 6:30. Okay, so you got an hour. Cool. So let's do this then. Since you just can't fit in no more time, can we go to bed 15 minutes or 20 minutes earlier? Can we go to bed 20 minutes earlier to get up 20 minutes earlier so that we can do a 20-minute workout 3 times a week? Solve the time issue. Okay? If somebody's just that busy. I've yet to come across anybody that was just that busy where they didn't have 20 minutes or 30 minutes that they could actually spare. Okay? Then let's go to finances. Finances, and the way that we have to look at finances always is a result, if we're truly tapped in, is a result of creativity. So people with the wealthy mindset find a way to finance their life through creativity. You know what? I don't want to, my mentor, one of my mentors, financial mentors, he said, I'm just tired of flying commercial. So I want to fly private, but how in the heck am I going, because that trip from here to Las Vegas is 60 grand. Okay. How I'm going to do that? Well, you know what? Let me create a program that is a $150,000 or $200,000 program. And let me just put it out there to say, okay, hey, I got a $200,000 program and 4 people bought it that month. So now we're talking about he made $800,000 in that month. Then now he was able to finance his private traveling expenses for the rest of the year. So he had a problem. He used his creativity to create a solution to then be able to finance the life that he wants. So we can do that same thing in this arena. Okay, you may not have allocated funds to hire a coach at this time, but what can you do to be able to create that? Right? Can you take on an extra this for an extra hour that you may have to spare every week? And that could then be able to do that. Now, in the past, my very first client, I was fortunate. My very first personal training client that I ever had, she's a friend of the family, and she literally cut off her cell phone bills. She had 2. She cut them both off just so she could afford training. Okay, I I had to give her praises because I wouldn't have even have done that. I wouldn't have even went to that extent, right? But it let me know that people will sacrifice or come up with some creative idea to finance the life that they do want to live.
Oh. What are you committed to? Sis was committed for real, not for play. And it was
With a capital T.
evident. It was
Mm-hmm.
evident in the actions that she took. You can just see that for her, oh, this wasn't a game. And I love that because people are not clear about what they want versus what they need. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of the times we conflate our needs with our wants because you don't need a cell phone. We feel like we do. First world problems. I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
do. I get it. But we don't need a phone. We don't need a TV. We don't need half the things in our house. And I was thinking about, as you're dealing with whatever it is that you're dealing with in your life that you feel like might be an obstacle to you being able to be as healthy as you want to be, eating the way that you want to eat, exercising the way that you want, doing your meditations, doing your visualization, listening to your affirmations. All of this stuff takes time and intentionality, right? Well, I want you to think about right now, right while you're here, I want you to take inventory. I love doing inventory because it makes you get real honest with yourself. Where have you been spending your time? Right? How often are you on social media? How often do you watch TV? How often, how much are you doing things that are not necessarily moving you in the direction that you want to go? Take inventory and let's see. This is not to make it right or wrong or good or bad. It's just to look and see what we're working with. Where is your money going? How often are you spending money on fast food? How often are you spending money on clothes or shoes or accessories? How often are you going out? How often are you buying alcohol? How often are you buying other substances that aren't necessarily pushing you in the direction that you want to go? A lot of times the money is there, but we're not using it. We're using it for what is in our comfort zone versus
Mm-hmm.
for what's going to elevate us to that next level.
Mm-hmm.
I love that example so much because when my clients come to me on the finance tip, I'm like, oh, we can get you there. The question is, what are you willing to give up?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Anything else you want to say?
No, I think we pretty much covered that portion of it.
Boom.
Yeah, we hit that one.
So, so I know that there are three pillars of life that you talk about, and we hit on two of them. I want you to share what they are and how they work together.
Yes. So the three industries that will always have clientele because the humans are always seeking these three things in life. And that is health, okay? Health, being free from disease or illness in the mind and or body, and I'm going to go a step further and say in the spirit. So to be disease free or to be healthy. Wealth, to be able to have enough resources to create the life that you envision for you, your family, and if you go a step further, your community, and then also to be intergenerational. So wealth. And then last but not least is then relationships. So they work together because again, at the end of the day, we are looking to be fulfilled in life, whether you understand that or not. So every time that you go and buy a new thing, a car, house, right? These pair of clothes, ooh, girl, this is so cute. Let me get that, right? Anytime you are putting your energy into these things, what you are chasing is because you're thinking that you're going to get one step closer to fulfillment. You can hear me okay?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. So within that fulfillment, what happens is if you're healthy, now you're after the wealth and you want the relationships. If you're wealthy, oftentimes you've grinded it out, so you didn't sacrifice your health. So now you want your health back, and then you want relationships. Now, oftentimes, most of us only maybe have one of those. Some of us are at the bottom of that and have none of those. And then a higher demographic of us have two of those. But most of us are searching for all three of those, and a little small amount of people may have all three of those factors. And so what they seen with two people, the two things that they found, the commonalities of all fulfilled people, okay? People who live fulfilled lives, like, you know what? I love my life. I don't need anything else. I don't want anything else. I got everything that I want. I am happy, and every breath I take is just a breath of fresh air, and I just love life, okay? Fulfillment. What they found was two similarities. Those similarities is number one, they are always progressing. Okay? Your work should be something that you love so much that you could do it even if you didn't get paid for it, because it brings you satisfaction. Bob Proctor, the late Bob Proctor, said, you never work for money, you always work for satisfaction. He said, so if I work for satisfaction, why would I ever retire? So this man, he passed away, I think he may have been 93 or something, maybe even between 86 and 93 is the age range, and he worked every day. From the time he was 20 something years old, he worked every day of his life. And he said, "Why would I retire? I love doing this." So you work for satisfaction. So oftentimes, again, the two things that they found the most fulfilled people was purposely progressing. Your work is a way for you to be able to do that. And the second thing is you're always giving back. You're always giving. But in order to give, you have to have. So with that being said, in order to give, you also have to have relationships who to give it to. That's relationships. In order to give, you got to have. In order to have, you got to have energy to be able to acquire. That's health. And then oftentimes you're giving something, which means that something had to be purchased. That's wealth. So you need those three things to be able to do those two things that would allow you to live a more fulfilled life. That's the connection between those three aspects that most people are always searching for.
Mm-hmm. I definitely, and so I as I'm thinking about it, right, I'm just letting it sink in. And I can see that people are out here pursuing wealth. And a lot of times we prioritize that one. I know I did. um, and then once we get a little bit of security, we start to prioritize relationships, right? Because I know for me, when I'm not financially secure, it's almost like nothing else matters. But that's because I have the luxury of being healthy, right? So when I'm not financially secure, all of my energy goes into securing a bag. And then once I have that peace of mind, that's when I start thinking about my relationships, my romantic relationships, my familial relationships, and my friend relationships, which may have taken a back seat when I was grinding, when I was working all day. I let my relationships take a back seat. And then once I'm, more successful, then I revisit those and start pursuing my romantic relationships more. But it's only when health is knocking on my door, you know, that I'm like, hold up now, I'm getting a little belly fat. Wait a minute, hold on. Or, my heart is palpitating. This is unusual. What's going on? And I start getting to Google, and now I'm like, all right, I got to get my sleep schedule together. I need to get this food together. But it's only when something is knocking on my door or when something has been brought to my attention that I'm finally ready to pay attention to my wealth. So, my question for you is, have you noticed that people neglect the health part of the pillars? Um, or what do you find in your practice?
Yeah, so it really all has to do with your upbringing. Most of the time it's affected based upon your upbringing. So different levels of society emphasize different aspects. Oftentimes, though, to be honest with you, people who are living in more of an impoverished environment are oftentimes maybe don't have the drive to pursue none of those the way that would be advantageous for them to produce a different lifestyle, because they have fall accustomed to a certain standard that they've been able to survive in. Then you see with middle and upper class families, these things have been matriculated within their lifestyles. Whereas I'm gonna tell you the truth. Like, although again, I grew up very unique paradigm. Okay. A very conscious, again, a very conscious father. So by default, my mother was, also went into that direction, but he was the head of that. I grew up with a split household, and I grew up in what you would call the hood. It was very unique. Environment had no idea, and I mean, the most unhealthiest, right? Because didn't have the money to really afford a diet that was, conducive for their health. So my environment was much different, in that way. So oftentimes it really just depends on your upbringing and what your parents emphasize or your environment emphasize. And so, I say this all the time, like honestly speaking, although I played sports all my entire life, I never knew anybody that actively went to the gym and worked out outside of sports. So like nobody around me, nobody in my neighborhood had a gym membership. I ain't even thought I didn't even see that until I started working at a gym, when I was about, 19 years old. Because that's the paradigm, right? That was the environment. So oftentimes it's just based upon that. And a lot of people who may have lived in impoverished environments, relationships are disposable. A lot of times wealth is like something they, some people chase, but a lot of times you don't even have the energy or the drive to go and create something to get wealth. So you may do it from a criminal standpoint. And then lastly, health. Yeah, that was definitely not even, if anything, that was on the bottom of the totem pole, I would absolutely say, especially in impoverished environments. Yeah, like nah, So yes. So that's a great question. I never really thought about it that much, but it really has to do with, your environment, where you grew up, and who was your influence.
And so when we think about the triads, hi everybody, welcome. Hey Danae, hey Resume Workshop. So what I wanted to get into, we're gonna wrap it up in about 15 minutes. But you mentioned before that it's really important for women to focus on their health first, but men can get away with focusing on their wealth first. And I wanted to know a little bit more about what you meant by that.
Yeah, great question. So remember, those three pillars that we want in life is health, wealth, relationships. Okay? Health, wealth, relationships. All right? Now, we live in this very misconstrued paradigm or misconstrued society where now we have giving up traditionally what has worked for thousands of years. Okay, what has worked for thousands of years based upon biology and based upon natural human and mammal instinct. Okay, so just because we've got away from it doesn't mean that it still does not exist and that we still don't have and we're still not influenced by those things. It just means that we're operating outside of nature. So what you'll see, for an example, if relationships is something that we absolutely hold valuable, which we all do, we all want relationships. Let's just go and use the microcosm of male and female dynamics, husband and wife. Okay, if most people at some point want a husband, most women at some point want a husband, and most men at some point want a wife. Okay, so with those two understandings, then if I'm looking for a wife and I'm a man, then I got to understand what a wife or a woman, because she's a woman. I got to understand what a woman values. not just value from a social nurturing standpoint, but from an instinctual standpoint. There's an African proverb that says, a woman is like a flower, and her husband is the fence around it. So it represents women being this very delicate, very beautiful, very extravagant being who needs a certain environment to thrive. And wealth is a part of that environment and protection that women need to be able to thrive. So women traditionally can be able to overlook the little belly that the brother may have because he bring a whole lot of financial protection.
Overlook a little belly, huh? That's why I'm in.
They can overlook a little belly, right? Whereas the flip side, though, is not true. And we got to stop acting like we're the same. We're not the same instinctually, okay? Whereas a man, right? Okay, it's good if you may have, you might secure the bag, but a man ain't a man. I ain't talking about males, but I'm talking about a man. Okay, like it ain't on his top 3 things that she does. My girl, she got to have the bag, right? That's not what's most valuable. But men absolutely desires a healthy woman, healthy from all standpoints, healthy in the mind, especially healthy in the body, but also healthy in the spirit. So her experiences matter to him because he's looking for health. Whether we understand it and know how to break that down or not, this is the reality. So we can't say we want a relationship, but also say, well, I don't care what a man thinks. Well, okay, then you really ain't looking for a relationship because I care what a woman thinks, which is why I'm having to mold myself to be the husband that I believe that is going to be most desired by the woman that I am looking to attract. And so I had to come to reality that wealth is one of those things. It doesn't make her a gold digger. It makes her someone who understands the importance of what the choices that wealth can bring, because she needs her children. She wants her children to go to Montessori school. Mm-hmm. Well, Montessori school costs $1,000 a month.
Montessori school ain't free.
Right. So then those things are very important. So then we have to understand that wealth plays a part into that because it creates a certain lifestyle where men is looking for the health, because it's a saying that says when men get divorced, they're looking to replace the physical body. When women get divorced, they're looking to replace the lifestyle. So this is basic human dynamics that has been observed for thousands of years. We can have an emotion towards it the way we want. We can say, well, maybe I'm not like that, whatever the case may be. You may be an exception to the rule. But most of the time, around that ballpark of what I just described is oftentimes where we find ourselves on the totem pole. And that's why it's like that.
I wish we had more time to get into that today because I think that is so interesting. But the part that I really want to double down on, though, is how our bodies respond to what we're doing. So if I look at, my cousin in his 30s, his body is not acting the way my body in my 30s is acting. And I was talking with a health professional, and she was saying that for women, every year after they turn 30, 1% of their body muscle turns to body fat unless they are actively working out, doing strength training. That muscle gonna turn to fat, boo. And it's like where, and one of my friends, her and her husband, they'll both go to the gym. She's still looking chubby and he cut after 30 days. It's like, wait a minute. Wait 1 minute. And so, where women, it's like, our we are hormonal beings. I don't know if men are, I don't know, but I know that women in particular, our hormones are cycling all month, going up and down and doing different things. And what I've noticed is that impacts our health to a large, wide, and varying degree in ways that many people don't have yet to understand. And so, while it might be cute for us to try to hustle, it is so important that we take care of our health because the snapback is not the same.
Yes, 1000%.
I don't know about what male life is like out here. What are your thoughts about that? What is it like for men who are transitioning from their 20s into their 30s? And I think there's something to be said about them having the leeway to go hard and grind a little bit longer in a way that women might not have that window to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, women are very much, impacted based upon the the earth cycles, but also the moon. Okay, which means that women goes through many different changes, but also women are what you call incubators, right? So women are constantly absorbing things on a mental, on a physical, and on a spiritual level. And so through that absorption, that means that you're constantly going through changes, which is why environment is very important for women. Important for most everybody, but women in particular, environment is very important. Okay? So in that understanding, right? Then if women are going through lots of changes, then we have to understand that changes are not always bad if we're doing things that can help to be able to absorb the right changes. So adapting a lifestyle, it would be counterproductive for us to ever compare, well, he working out this many times and he doing this and then I'm doing it, because we're totally two different beings, right? But what we have shown and what we have seen is that if you do adapt to a lifestyle and adopt a lifestyle, especially one of good nutrition from plant-based sources, okay, incorporating herbs into your diet, but then also exercising consistently and adding some intensity. So another thing is for an example, your cousin may be in there going in there and he benching 225 pounds. Whereas the wife is going on there and getting on a treadmill for 5 minutes. Like, that's two different types of loads on the body.
Nah, you're right. You're right. Got my
Okay?
little 5 pound.
Right. You got 5 pound dumbbells, right? And brothers going in there and lifting, you know what I'm saying? So there's two different types because form follows function. He's over there training like an athlete. So guess what? He gonna look like an athlete.
That's a good point.
She may be training like a soccer mom, so she gonna look like a soccer mom, right? So its form follows function in that way. So what we have to do is just make sure that we incorporate. If we want a certain body, if we want a snatch body, well, I'm gonna tell you now, you ain't getting a snatch body in the way that we're talking to define a snatch body without strength training. You have to add resistance in a way that creates hypertrophy, which is the breaking down of muscles, so that those muscles can break down and then build back stronger, build back firmer, build back tighter. And so in that regards is when we'll start to see the change that's necessary for us to be able to feel like, you know what, all right, I'm maximizing this body the way I need to be.
So before we, I want to summarize a couple of things that we talked about today because I don't want none of this to get lost. The first thing that I want to remind you is that, the body is connected. And the fact that, things are separate is an illusion. Everything is connected. So if you don't take away anything else today, I want you to take away the fact that everything is connected in your body, but also in the different modalities, right? In your mind, in your spirit. All of those things are connected as well. And I like to think of energy management and productivity because those things are going to play into whether or not you have the time, the awareness, and the wherewithal to actually make sure that you're handling your health, your wellness, and your relationships in a productive way. Um, the second thing I want you to remember is that when you are worried or when you are stressing out or when you are grinding, your body is producing cortisol. And cortisol is throwing everything off in your body. It's throwing off your sleep cycle. It's throwing off your weight distribution in your body. It's throwing off your ability to regulate emotions and feelings. You know, if you find yourself snappy, especially once you get around that time of the month, it's throwing that off. When when I say that your body is producing cortisol, that's another way for me to say that stress is killing you. All right. So I want you to keep that in mind. I also want you to keep in mind that the three different health, wealth, and relationships, that all of those things are working together. It's not just that one is important. All of them are important in helping you live a happy life. So when we talk about holistic, that's why I call myself a holistic wealth coach. Some people are like, "What? That don't sound like something where you helping people get money." Helping people get money requires helping people be well mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Right? Why do you think you broke now? Because you got no impulse control. Why you ain't got no impulse control? Probably too much cortisol, probably not enough sleep, probably not regulating the way that you should, not eating the way that you should. And so, Tori, before you go, I want you to share with us the your 3M model for wellness and what those things are and how they can help people on their journey to holistic wellness.
Yes, ma'am. So the 3M method is a revolutionary method that we came up with after a decade of working with clientele. And so our job was to simplify what are the three things, if we could only just do three things for our community, if our community implement these three things on a daily basis that could revolutionize their health drastically and take them from sick and diseased to healthy and full of peace and start the journey of healing with purpose, what would those three things be? And so without a doubt, those three things are meditation, which is just different forms of mindfulness, because you can't change what you're not aware of. You can't heal what's concealed. So meditation is the ability to be able to get still enough, as you said, impulse control, understanding, okay, if I'm going to go in this direction, what is misaligned so that I can correct it so that I can get the result that I want. And that's with anything in life. So helping us to be able to get more mindful, because a lot of us are just walking around like zombies, okay, not mindful of anything. Okay. So the second M is movement. Okay. Life is movement. The only reason why you have a brain is because you're a moving being. A tree is alive. Grass is alive. It doesn't move. And it also doesn't have a brain. So the reason that you have a brain is because you move, because you needed to be able to know and memorize as data to know, where did I get that water from last time? Because I got to survive to get back to that river so I can get that water. So movement, functional exercise, yoga, dancing, something to move the body, because there's no amount of brain cells that is created the way that movement creates brain cells. No other activity creates the same amount of brain cells that exercise do. So you got to get moving, and you got to move with intensity, and you got to move with intentionality. Move with intention, which also helps to be able to detoxify the lymphatic system. And then lastly is medicine, Well, when you hear medicine, because you've been programmed in the Western world, you're thinking about ibuprofen, Advil, metformin, etc. No, that's not medicine. They've tried to redefine that as medicine to take you out of what the original medicine that was given to you. And he said, I've given you every herb bearing seed. For you, it shall be for food or meat. But then I have given you the leaves of those seeds for you to be for medicine. Okay? So medicine, the original medicine is herbs and things that come from the earth, from the same place and the same source that you come from. What type of medicine? Well, all different types depending upon what ailment, but things that I'm taking ginkgo, right? I'm taking burdock root every day, dandelion tea, yerba mate leaf, ginger root. Okay? So medicine, meditation, movement, medicine, because that helps to what? To be able to reproduce and to regenerate on a cellular level. Therefore, you can continue to heal. The body wants to heal itself. There's no such thing as an incurable disease. There's only such thing as incurable people. So as long as I can identify that you're not an incurable person, then we can get rid of the disease. That's the easy part. So those are the three M's. And if I can, Tasha, really quick, is um is something that I would love for everybody, especially Black women, more so to speak, is tomorrow I have a live class. It's called Six Diseases That Disproportionately Affect Black Women and How to Reverse and Prevent Them. And I'm going to go in on this class and giving you a whole perspective that will absolutely, blow your mind in a way where it's going to inspire you to look at health from a whole different approach and give you another type of inspiration to whatever you may be dealing with, that there is hope and that you actually are closer to being able to overcome it faster than you probably even could even imagine. And so I would love for you to be able to reach out to me. You can go to my Instagram, LOJ Fit Club, and the link is in the bio. Or Tasha, if you have any way to post it on here, I can just send you the link really quick and we can post it. But I definitely want especially our Black women, our Black sisters, to be able to come to that masterclass tomorrow at 7 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yes, for those of you who are watching, I'm definitely going to put the link in my bio, and I'm going to send it out to my community. So to make sure, because I'm going to be there. Like I need to know, what's the title again?
Six diseases that disproportionately. I got to go to Google every time this spell disproportionately, because I be like, oh Lord. Six diseases that disproportionately affect black women and how to reverse and prevent them. But that's the first title is more six diseases that disproportionately affect Black women. And Tasha, is just very important that we understand. And one of the things that I'll be talking about on there, and I want to share it with you before we get off, is if it's anybody who should dislike the Western medical system, it's the Black woman, because she's been experimented on more than any other human being on this planet by this Western medical system. The father of gynecology. So when you say, oh, I'm going to go see my gynecologist, the father who they are boastfully lifting up was someone who would experiment on Black women to the point to where he said Black women didn't feel pain, and so would do excruciating types of experiments on Black women, and that's who their medical system is based upon. So when we don't have that type of knowledge, we don't understand what we're really up against. So you can't possibly heal because you're up against a system that don't want you to heal. I'm coming to bring a different word
And
that's
that
going
has
to bring a different
actively
thought
harmed you.
that's actively harmed you over and over. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So six diseases that that disproportionately affect Black women,
Mm-hmm.
and how to reverse and prevent them. I'm so excited about that. One of the things that I pay attention to is things that are ailments for women, because I feel like it's something that's very understudied. People don't understand. It's like when we talk about like women are magical, Black women in particular, people There's such a lack of understanding, I believe, for how we operate. And even when there is like, awareness, like, okay, I know that, my girl start acting like this around, let me have some grace with her. Thank
Yes,
goodness for the
yes,
men who get it. But then there's
yes,
still a lack of understanding because we don't really know what is going on right there. And I
yes,
tell people, 1 week I'm ovulating, 1 month I'm PMS, and 1 month is my 1 week is my 1 week, 1 week is my cycle, and then 1 week I feel normal. It's like there's
yes,
so
yes.
much, and and there's a lack of
And correction,
understanding about like what
it's I'm sorry, it's Thursday, not tomorrow. Thursday at 7.
Thursday.
Yes, sorry.
Okay.
That's very important. I was like, oof, losing track of days.
I was thinking it was Monday for the longest. I had a conversation with somebody like about Monday, and I was like, "Oh, it's Tuesday." So I totally get it, but
Yes.
I think that, when we look at the topic of health is wealth, my intention for our call today was to have people walk away understanding that, health is doing things to honor our health is not a luxury. We shouldn't be waiting for our wealth to knock on the door and say, "Hey, something is wrong." Right? The body, like you said, and like the title of the book, the body is always keeping the score. And there is only so long that you can push your body to the brink before it starts to push back. And what gets me is how surprised we are. It's like we have been mistreating our body for so long. I cut my finger the other day. Like it was a pretty serious cut, bleeding and everything. It was very painful for 7 days, but on the eighth day, the pain really began to subside. And on the ninth day, the wound was really closing and healing. Today is day 10, and the wound is like almost completely healed. That's because our bodies are miraculous. And when we give them the attention that they deserve, they can do what they need to do without a lot of interference or help from us.
Facts.
We just be putting so much garbage in there. It's like trying to figure out, okay, it's like it's so resilient. It just need us to help it out a little bit. So I think that this conversation is so important. I cannot stress that enough. And I hope that you understand that we can't neglect our bodies. We don't have spare parts. Super important that we're taking care of ourselves. And with that, Tori, any final last words? Tell the people where they can find you again. If they want to follow you on
Okay.
Instagram, social media, website.
Yes, sorry. You're breaking up on my side pretty bad, but I can I've made out what you said. Yes.
Have
Um Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, share with the people where they can find you on social media and how they can connect with you.
Yes. So most actively we're on Instagram. So you can find everything that we have right now on Instagram, and that is at LOJ Fit Club. Like LOJ as in Lion of Judah. So LOJ Fit Club. You can follow our Instagram. Go to the link in the bio. Especially if you're a black woman, go sign up for that masterclass on Thursday. Link in the bio, and then give us a follow. Look at our stories. We give a lot of information, a lot of content based upon holistic health. It's something that we love to do, something that we're dedicated in doing, something that we're going to be doing for a long time. So yes, look forward to connecting with each and every one of you.
I absolutely love it. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining us, for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom and your understanding with us. And I'm just I'm just so grateful to be able to have access to an expanding conversation of wellness. And like I always say, right now the thing for January is power and authority. This is your life, nobody else's. I don't want to hear you blaming anybody else for the results that you're getting in your life, because there are so many things that we can do to make sure that we're creating the future that we want for ourselves. You are not hopeless. You are not helpless. You are not powerless. In fact, you are powerful beyond measure. And keep that in mind. Tap into it and unleash everything that you have onto the world, because we need it. We need what you have. You are so valuable. You matter. Your life matters. So make sure that you take care of it by paying attention to your health so that you can tap into that wealth. So thank you so much, everybody. Tori, thank you again. I'll be sharing this on all of my social media platforms, and you'll be getting an email to make sure that you can join Tori on Thursday. And with that, you guys have a wonderful rest of your evening.